Hey everyone, and welcome back to CrimePod Castle for another deep dive. This time we're going exploring a case that's it's more than just a typical crime. It's a story of ambition and heartbreak, and really a journey that went from the excitement of space travel right down to a very earthly scandal.
Yeah, it's a case that people really seem to remember.
So picture this, if you will. It's 2007, and the world is glued to the news because it breaks that Lisa Nowak, this decorated astronaut. She seemingly had it all right, successful career, family, but then it all kind of comes crashing down in this bizarre incident, and it involved a love triangle, and a cross-country road trip, and ends up with, a very dramatic airport confrontation.
Yeah, this case really caught the public's imagination.
Yeah.
I think it was because of the contrast, between NASA and space travel and then this very messy human drama.
Totally. And, you probably remember all the headlines, the
Yeah.
whispers, just the shock of it all. But today we're going to go deeper than just the headlines,
Yeah, we're gonna try to figure out what really happened.
Yeah, exactly what drove Lisa Nowak to this breaking point. And what does this case even tell us about the pressures of ambition and just the complexities of human emotion and kind of those blurred lines between our public selves and our private selves?
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating.
Welcome to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Crime series.
Ooh, very exciting.
So before we get into all the twists and turns of this story,
Yeah.
I want to kind of go back to the beginning, like before everything went down.
Yeah.
Who was Lisa Nowak? Like, what was her life like? What was her career like?
So from all the information we've gathered, it seems that Lisa Nowak was really, at the top of her game. She was born in 1963, and she excelled, throughout school. She ended up graduating from the U.S. Naval Academy with a degree in aerospace engineering, which,
Wow.
yeah, that's not your typical college experience.
Not at all.
We're talking like rigorous training and discipline.
Yeah.
A commitment to excellence that I think most of us can only imagine.
I mean, it takes a certain type of person to even, go down that path.
For sure. And she didn't stop there. She continued to focus on her career. She became a naval flight officer, which is an incredibly demanding role.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then in 1996, she achieved what so many people see as, the ultimate dream. She became a NASA astronaut.
I mean, talk about reaching for the stars, literally.
Literally.
And then in 2006, she flew on the Space Shuttle Discovery.
Right. I mean, that's
not just a career highlight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a moment in history.
Exactly. I think it just shows her dedication and her intelligence and her ability to, perform under some serious pressure.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should forget the psychological strength that it must take to leave Earth, and go into the unknown.
It's hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
So we're painting this picture of someone who seemingly has it all, right? Successful career, a family. She's got the respect of her peers. She's literally in the history books. But I think we all know that, oftentimes there's more going on beneath the surface, especially when we're talking about people who live these really high-profile lives.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's important to remember that even those who achieve these extraordinary things, they're still human.
Okay.
They have vulnerabilities and challenges. And sometimes those challenges, they play out in ways that none of us could predict.
Which brings us to the heart of this whole case, the love triangle. So can you walk us through the relationships that kind of led to this shocking incident?
Sure. So Lisa Nowak, she was married and had 3 children. But reports say she was also involved in a romantic relationship with another astronaut, a guy named Billy Oefelein. And this wasn't just a casual thing. This was a serious relationship that went on for at least a couple of years.
And dating within the astronaut corps, I mean, that has to add another layer of complexity to things, right? It's not your typical office romance.
Exactly. We're talking about a really small group of very elite individuals. They're all bonded by their shared experiences and their dedication to this mission that they're on, and the fact that, the whole world is watching them.
Yeah, they're the public eye.
Right. So the relationship dynamics in that world, they have to be unique, to say the least.
So what happened with Lisa Nowak and Billy Oefelein? How did this relationship end?
Well, from what we've pieced together, it seems that Oefelein ended the relationship with Nowak and started dating another astronaut, an Air Force captain, Colleen Shipman. And, this wasn't just a simple breakup. It was a rejection that happened within, the tight-knit community of NASA.
It's interesting. We hear all the time about the mental and physical strength it takes to be an astronaut, but we don't really ever talk about the emotional toll, the human side of these larger-than-life figures.
Right, and I think that's what this case really brings to light.
Yeah.
Imagine being someone like Lisa Nowak who has spent her whole life striving for excellence, striving for control, only to kind of feel like she's losing control in her personal life.
And not just losing control, but losing control in the one environment that defines her. The place where she's supposed to have it all together. It also felt like a double whammy.
Exactly. And it's in this context, against this backdrop of a very public rejection, that the events of February 2007 start to unfold.
And this is where the story takes a very dramatic turn, right? We've got the 900-mile drive, the airport confrontation, the quote-unquote kill kit. I mean, the details of this case are what made it a national sensation.
Yeah, this is where the personal becomes very public, and the line between ambition and heartbreak and desperation gets very, very blurry.
Okay, so let's dive into that next chapter of this story.
So let's talk about that road trip, the one that made Lisa Nowak infamous.
Yeah, this is where things get really intense. From what I remember, Nowak drove from Houston all the way to Orlando.
That's right.
That's over 900 miles.
Over 900 miles nonstop. I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit the image of an astronaut, does it?
Not at all. I mean, her job required incredible composure and, rational decision making.
So what was she doing? Driving all that way to confront Shipman?
It seems so. And it wasn't a spur of the moment thing, fueled by anger or something. This was planned. She packed supplies. She even wore an adult diaper so she wouldn't have to stop.
Really?
Yeah, remember how we talked about her need for control? It's like it was coming out in this really strange way.
So what about this kill kit that everyone was talking about? What was in it? And how does that fit with what we know about her?
Well, it had pepper spray and a BB gun, a mallet, duct tape, and a knife. I mean, if you look at those things individually, they might not be that alarming, but together packed for this specific trip.
It's definitely disturbing.
Yeah, we're talking about a woman who just a few months earlier was celebrated for her ability to handle pressure, handle dangerous situations in space.
Right.
It makes you think about, how people compartmentalize their lives. We assume people can keep their work and personal life separate, but what happens when they collide?
When the emotions kind of spill over.
Exactly.
So was this drive, this kill kit, I mean, was this someone who was planning to do something really bad? Or was this like a mental breakdown?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something that everyone's been trying to figure out, the legal experts, the psychologists, the public.
So she gets to Orlando then. She confronts Shipman at the airport. What happened?
Right. Nowak waited for Shipman to arrive, and when she did, Nowak followed her to her car and tried to talk to her, and then things escalated and she sprayed Shipman with pepper spray.
That's scary. That's not just an argument, that's an attack.
It was, and thankfully Shipman was able to get away and call the police.
Can you imagine being Shipman? You're suddenly in this crazy situation with someone you know is connected to your boyfriend, and this person is supposed to be a national hero.
It's like something out of a movie, except it was real life with real consequences.
So Nowak was arrested that day, right?
Yeah, that same day. It was a major turning point. Her private life became a very public spectacle.
The media must have gone crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Astronaut love triangle, airport confrontation, kill kit. I mean, it was like a headline writer's dream.
What were the charges against her? Was it attempted kidnapping, assault?
Initially, she was charged with attempted kidnapping, burglary, with assault and battery. I mean, the duct tape and the knife and the kill kit definitely made people worry about what she was planning to do.
So was it premeditated? Or was it just a desperate act from someone who was losing touch with reality?
We may never know for sure. There was a trial, but it didn't go the way a lot of people thought it would. In 2009, Nowak took a plea deal. She pled guilty to felony burglary and misdemeanor battery.
So not the kidnapping charge. Was that to avoid a long trial and more publicity? Or was it because the case was just so complicated?
Probably a little bit of both. Remember, there wasn't any physical harm done to Shipman, and proving intent, especially with Nowak's mental state at the time, was probably difficult for the prosecution.
So what was the sentence for the plea deal?
She got a year of probation and had to do some community service.
That seems pretty lenient considering the original charges and all the media attention.
I know, right? But I think it shows that the legal system was trying to understand the situation, to acknowledge that sometimes even really successful people can make choices that seem totally out of character.
It's like a reminder that there's often this gap between our public image and our private struggle.
Exactly. Nowak, the astronaut, the symbol of achievement, was also a woman dealing with heartbreak and rejection and possibly a mental health crisis.
It's what makes this case so interesting and so hard to categorize.
Right.
So what happened to her career, her family?
Well, the biggest consequence was that she was fired from NASA. She was the first astronaut ever to be fired.
Wow. So her career, her dream, Everything she worked for just gone.
It makes you think about, the price of ambition and the sacrifices people make to achieve their goals and what happens when those goals become everything.
It's a lot to think about. This has been a really interesting deep dive, but it's left me with more questions than answers.
Hmm.
What happened to Nowak after she left NASA? How did all this affect the other people involved? We've covered a lot of ground with this case, huh?
We have from space travel to a very public breakdown.
So where did Lisa Nowak end up after NASA? Did she just disappear?
Pretty much, yeah. She divorced her husband and focused on raising her kids. She kept a low profile, tried to rebuild her life away from all the media attention.
It's like she went back to being Lisa Nowak, the private citizen.
Right, maybe that's what she needed time to heal and reconnect with her family and find some sense of normalcy after all that.
What about Shipman and Oefelein? How did they deal with everything?
Well, they stayed together and eventually got married. They've mostly stayed out of the public eye, too. It makes you think about the impact all of this had on them, on their lives, their relationship, their careers.
Yeah, this wasn't just about Lisa Nowak. It was about the love triangle and how things can get out of hand when emotions are intense.
Exactly. It reminds us that everything we do has consequences that affect other people, too. It's like throwing a rock in a pond, the ripples go everywhere.
So has public opinion changed about Lisa Nowak over time?
It's hard to say people are still fascinated by the story. I think they want to understand what made her do what she did. Some people are still really judgmental about it. They see her actions as unforgivable.
And others see her as someone who just broke under pressure.
Right, a victim of her own ambition.
Is there a way to see both sides?
I think you have to remember that people are complicated. We're all capable of good and bad things. We can be brilliant and accomplished and still make terrible mistakes.
I guess this case really shattered that perfect image of astronauts, huh? It made them seem more human, I guess.
It did, and in a way that makes the story even more interesting. It reminds us that there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface.
Okay, so what are the big takeaways from all of this? What's the lasting impact to the Lisa Nowak case?
I think the biggest thing is that it made people realize how important mental health is, especially in high-stress jobs. We need to create environments where people feel comfortable asking for help, where they feel supported.
It's a good reminder that even people who seem to have it all can still struggle.
Right. Another takeaway is that obsession can be really dangerous. Nowak's fixation on Oefelein and Shipman took over her life, and it led her to make choices that ruined everything.
So self-awareness is really important.
Yeah, being able to recognize those unhealthy patterns and get help before it's too late.
This case makes you think about your own values, what's really important in life, and what are you willing to sacrifice to get it? How do you stay true to yourself even when things are tough?
That's a good question to think about.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible. Thank you so much for taking us through this case. It's a story that just keeps you thinking.
It's been my pleasure. It's a story that reminds us that no matter how far we go, even into space, we can't escape our own emotions.
And that's it for this deep dive into the Lisa Nowak case. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle and our YouTube channel for more explorations into the world of twisted crimes. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.